Whitt. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior product manager at Niantic, focused on our Athwall creator tool set. So I'm going to provide a background here on how we got to Niantic Studio and kind of what our thinking was, what we're trying to solve, and then I'll go into the actual studio tool and give a lay of land. But I think there's some folks that are maybe not familiar or they're new to Athwall and new to Studio. So I kind of want to start with just kind of what is Athwall? So Athwall, for those that don't know, is the leading platform for building web AR experiences. We are big fans of the web at Athwall because it's universal. It's on everybody's phone. It's flexible, so creators can publish content without needing an app store review or building a full native app. And then it's quick. So your users don't have to go to the app store to download that content, and they can get access to great XR content quickly. And since 2018, Athwall has been bringing some major AR power to the browser. So let's talk about that for a second. With the Athwall engine, you can access XR features like world tracking, VPS, sky effects, image targets, human AR, and that's all via the browser. So Athwall enables cross-platform web XR as well. So we support web experiences on the Microsoft HoloLens, MetaQuest, and then most recently, Apple Vision Pro. So from mobile devices to desktop to headsets, basically any device with a browser, your users can interact with immersive XR content. And so this is one big part of, the Athwall platform. But another big part is the creator toolset. So let's hop over to that. With the Athwall platform, creators have been able to tap into a fully web-based tool set. So we have our code editor, that's all cloud-based. We have built-in hosting, version control, remote deployment, one-click publishing, ability to collaborate with team members, Google Doc style. And then we also have recently launched our live simulator, so you can actually test full XR experiences remotely. So Athwall really has let our developers collaboratively build, launch, and distribute XR experiences rapidly and collaboratively. But we've also been hearing some of the challenges, right? So Athwall developers have built hundreds of thousands of web AR apps on the platform. But we have been working closely with this amazing community of global creators, and we've been hearing the feedback about the kinds of XR experiences that you're excited about and about some of the problems that you face in your creation. So we've heard a lot from developers, maybe coming from gaming, maybe coming from Unity, who are finding it difficult to adapt their ideas into 2D web frameworks. We've heard from newcomers coming to the Athwall platform about a wall of code with maybe limited examples is intimidating and difficult to get started with. We've heard from a lot of users, maybe from other 3D tools, but maybe they're finding, the XR functionality is limited, maybe just to building, simple lens and face effects. We've also heard some creator challenges about the pricing too, and about how web AR with the subscription model can be out of reach. So this is a little bit of background into kind of what has gone on to getting to Studio. We're really excited at Athwall about the web. And we believe that XR is for everyone. So we've been committed to solving these issues. And we hear you that we have needed new tools to really unlock the creativity in the space. And that leads us to Niantic Studio. So we have been building out a whole new Athwall experience. We launched at the end of June in beta. And we've been envisioning this new creator experience. And our goal is to empower creators to build the next generation of immersive content right in the browser. And by creators, we mean not just web developers, but a broader ecosystem of designers and programmers that are coming from different backgrounds, be it gaming or 3D art, with a coding background or without. So talked a little bit about our mission. And just kind of going into what you can build. we want folks to be able to build 3D art, build gaming, and we want Studio to be flexible and scalable to support different modalities and different spatial use cases, from headset to mobile to the desktop browser. Okay. Our approach to building Studio was to take our universal web-based platform that I talked about and our XR engine, and combine that with an all-new visual editor and an all-new gaming engine. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, we have been seeing, that like and hearing that we've needed, new 3D designer tools to really bridge the gaps and remove the friction for, developers that want to bring their XR ideas to life. So let me introduce these two new parts, the visual editor and the game engine. All right. Our visual editor allows you now to build in 3D. So you can do things like drag and drop in assets. You can visually configure your scene. You don't have to be able to code to build an experience on the Athwall platform. But if you do, the visual editor is also great for seeing your changes reflected immediately. And Studio supports live simultaneous editing and playback. So this is a really unique feature that we'll dig more into. But you can also build with your teammates, and you can build anywhere where you can access the web. We've also brought a new game engine to the table. All right, so Athwall has been known for its XR engine and XR capabilities. And our community has been using that XR engine increasingly with other game systems and libraries to build more play and interaction. And they've needed things like physics systems or systems for tracking player actions and device inputs, or for managing animations and audio. And when it comes to Athwall and when it comes to other web tools, there has not really been a tool that brings together these kinds of gaming interaction features and XR features together. And that's been our approach to the new engine behind the scenes for the Athwall platform. We really want to power up what you can build on the web and just enable more dynamic, rich, playful experiences, and then more value for the end user. So major new things going on Athwall. I touched on some of this, but there is a lot that is built in and part of the tooling. So we have, our all new editor that gives you the ability to build in 3D, gives you access to like simulation and play mode debugging tools. We have a lot of gaming features that we're continuing to build out, as well as 3D design features. You can also access, the best of the Athwall XR engine, and then you can do this all on the web. So rapid, fast deployment, and ability to collaborate all remotely. Okay, so this is a background just on, what has gone into Studio and how we got here. We've just launched in beta, and we're super excited for your feedback. Very excited about this challenge because we get a chance to kind of test drive this new product with you, and we're super interested in getting your feedback, insights, and we want to be able to build with you. So looking forward to seeing what gets created and what ideas you have. I'm going to go now into showing actually the tool, and so you can see the features. You can see a lay of land here. So I'll just introduce first the editor interface. So for those that haven't tried out Studio, a couple key terms here, a couple key parts to our editor. Looks a lot like maybe other 3D workstations like Unity, Unreal, or Play Canvas. But we have our hierarchy here on the left. That's going to be everything that is part of your scene. All entities and objects are shown here. We also have, our assets and file browser. That's on the left. We have our viewport. So this is kind of your main interface for building and working in 3D. We also have our simulator. So when you go to press play, you'll launch a live client. And so you can actually play your experience and you'll see changes reflected in the viewport. So great way to kind of go in and just play things pretty fast. The inspector is where you would be able to configure any entities within the scene. And then we've got a kind of familiar launch toolbar for building, landing, and publishing your changes, as well as a familiar console here for being able to debug and see what's going on in the runtime. Okay. Just want to show off also live sync because it is better framed in the live context here, so you can see what's actually happening. With Studio, we have enabled live sync so that your viewport and your simulator or your play mode are connected. So this allows you to make changes and then see those changes be reflected real time in the simulator. You can see the camera here is moving. We have a simulator sequence that's been pre-recorded that you can tap into in the simulator where the camera is moving around, and then you can see that XR interaction be reflected in the viewport. So you can do things like change objects, change transform, and see that reflected in the simulator, and vice versa. You can see, if you have like a tap to place mechanic, you can see that runtime update be reflected in the viewport. So it's a very cool feature, all to help you iterate and quickly see things and make changes fast. Go to another version of Live Sync. So Live Sync also works with face effects. So we have several environments for testing faces in our simulator. So you can see here, yeah, I've built glasses that are have an attachment point to a face, and so we have our face meshes that are reflected from the simulator and their movements in our live sync feature. So again, it's a great way to just kind of quickly see how your experience is going to behave in a real world environment. Okay, just a little bit more on the interface and some of the capabilities that you have with Studio. So with Studio, it's very easy to create a 3D scene and bring in different objects like GLTF, GLB files, be able to set that up, be able to change the transform. But if you want to go into create actual behaviors and game interactions, you have an ability with custom components to set that up. So you can go in, and here I have a TypeScript file. I have a registered component here, which is basically I built out a behavior. In this case, it's a character controller, and I can basically set, okay, I want the different movements and force and different user inputs like arrow keys to control this ball behavior. So there's a framework here for being able to create gameplay and being able to create more dynamic and interactive experiences using custom components. This is pretty similar to maybe Unity, Unreal, Play Canvas, and being able to set up custom behaviors. Okay, we'll go into some of the resources here. So I talked about the editor, talked about some of the capabilities you have with live sync and with being able to set up behaviors and interactive experiences. To get started, really want to point people to our project library and our documentation. So I'm going to hop over just so you can see this live. In Athwall's project library, we have several sample experiences that are built for Studio. So you can see here, we've got our ball sample and our physics playground. We have a couple different game samples. And then we also have some XR samples. So those projects are labeled with the studio name here at the top. And then you can go in, and then I won't actually go through like the full cloning experience, but you can just quickly clone that project. And so that will create a copy of the project in your account. So I've done that here, and let's see, here's what it looks like when you actually open up the project here. And so, yeah, if I go in and I press play, that opens up the simulator. And then you can kind of get started, take a look at some of the custom components that are included in this project, and then be able to test and play and make updates. So that's a really helpful resource. Also want to point folks to our documentation. So let me go over to our resources here, going over to our docs. Definitely encourage folks to check out the studio docs, which are separated from the general Athwall docs. We have several guides here for using key elements like animation, audio, using the camera. So if there's a particular system that you're interested in bringing into the game, take a look at the documentation here. This will show you what kind of configuration options you have. And then we also have an API reference. So if you want to actually use, like say the lighting API, you'll kind of go in here and you can find our API documentation. Also want to point to custom components. This is a key section of the documentation. So for building out interactivity, setting up any kind of custom components, this is a good reference for how to get started with that, and things to know about the setup there. So yeah, documentation, making sure to kind of go through this, especially for component setup. We also have our project library, and then we also have our forum. So our forum is a place where our team is answering questions, and we have a particular studio feedback channel. So we love getting questions and feedback there. Our team is here to support you. So yeah, advise you to check out our forum. Maybe somebody has asked a similar question. So you want to go into forum for getting any kind of help or guidance or kind of raising any issues. Yeah, so there's a set of resources for you. I also want to point out in the studio project, kind of key things to note here to our inputs. So we have an input manager. This is going to allow you to set up different device inputs and attach that to actions. So you can see in this studio project in the input manager, we've got different actions for moving the ball backward, forward, and jumping. And so here's where you can go and set up, hey, I want, this, on this particular type of device, I want to be able to set up, this key or this set of keys to this particular action. That's just like one other thing that want to call out. And then on the camera, so we have our camera component here that's set up in the project. Here's where you can set up XR or AR configuration. So in this particular project, it's 3D only, but we have camera configurations for world or for face, basically being able to set up this project and to be AR friendly. So yeah, a couple other things that I wanted to highlight. We're going to be going through more of this functionality in our future sessions, but this is just a quick lay of land to help get you started. Yeah, so with that, I want to pass it back over to Pablo, and you can talk a little bit about our community and then what the next steps are for getting started with the challenge.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, so first and foremost, one of the new things that we've recently launched is a new community page on the Athwall site. So if you haven't checked that out yet, strongly encourage you to bookmark that because that is where we will have all of our announcements, updates, and all of the upcoming events. So here you'll find all of the information about the challenges, any new themes of the month, so really great place to find all of your needed information for community moving forward. With that, though, let's go ahead and jump into some of our info for the challenge for the next 2 months. First and foremost, we have a grand prize of $3,000 cash for the winner of that. They will also be featured in our Spotlight blog. And then the really cool element to this is you get to meet with Niantic staff on a one-to-one level to offer feedback, but also is a great opportunity to get feedback on your projects and continue to develop them moving forward. So that's really exciting. And of course, you will also be featured on the Athwall Discover homepage. In addition to that grand prize, we are offering probably our biggest prize pool yet in challenges for this year as far as the number of prizes. So you'll note that the prize amount has gone down, but the number of prizes has significantly increased. So that's something that we're really excited about to give more opportunity for everyone to win a prize. So for this, we have 4 categories. One category is Best Face Effects Game, which is to creatively integrate face effects to your game. The second is Best Use of Niantic Studio, which is just a effective and creative use of the Niantic Studio. And then our third category is Best Outdoor AR Game. So this would be for using something like world effects and thinking about how you would integrate that into your game. And then lastly, innovative gameplay. So for the most unique and imaginative mechanics built, that will go out to those. And each of these categories has 3 prizes available within them. And then just as a point of reference, if you design something specifically for one of these categories, it does not mean that you're out of the running for the grand prize. It's actually the opposite. If you design something for this, you can also win the grand prize. In addition to these prizes, we will have 4 honorable mentions at a $250 each on that front as well. So lots of prizes to go around. We're really excited about that to make sure that everyone participating has a good chance of walking away with something here, especially since you all are helping us a lot by diving into the studio and providing good information for us as we continue to develop it. So how do you win those prizes? There are 4 main criteria that we will be looking at for this challenge. For those of you that have participated in challenges before, this will look very familiar, but the first category criteria is overall gameplay. How engaging and enjoyable is the game for players? Are the game mechanics intuitive, and does the game provide a fun and immersive experience? Second is innovation and creativity. Does this introduce new and fresh ideas using Athwall's features, very specifically to Niantic Studio on that front? And then lastly, does it encourage users to explore the world together? In this element, I know that with some of these games, especially the 3D games, that may not be a huge push. So I would consider the third criteria only if you're building an outdoor game on that front. And then lastly, the completeness level. For this specific challenge, we know the Niantic Studio is in beta, so the overall level of completeness and how this is viewed from the judges will be very open-ended and acknowledging the fact that the studio is in beta. So I want to very clearly encourage you all to submit anything and everything that you've built. If it's not totally complete, we'd love to still see it to better understand where there may be blockers or how we can best continue to develop Studio to make it easier and easier to develop on it. Quick requirements, again, for those of you that have participated in challenges, you'll be very familiar with this. But you first must make sure that you make the project with Niantic Studio, and it must be a public and playable link, meaning that you've made it a featured page. Secondly, it must align with the overall theme of gaming, essentially providing some sort of gameplay for the user. And then lastly, it must be submitted before the deadline of September 30th, before midnight. Um, with regards to the deadline, we have had issues in the past where you create your account on Itch, you upload all of the game information, but then there's a missing final step, which is you have to return to the actual game site where the challenge is being held once you've joined the jam and submit your game to that jam. So make sure that you do both those steps, upload all of your information to Itch, and then secondly, submit that game to the jam to ensure that you all get the full submission. Because in the past, we've had to extend deadlines for those that uploaded all the information, but then forgot to hit submit on the game jam. So just a good call out there for everyone to remember. And for those of you that would like to join the challenge and have not joined yet, this is a QR code that take you directly to that itch site for you to sign up. Also, you can visit aith.io/challenges to jump over there. And then before we go into our ideation session, I'd love to give you all some time to, sorry, my Siri on my iPad is talking, so I hope you all don't hear that in the background. But before that, we'll go ahead and answer some questions from everyone here. I know there's already been some questions being answered in the chat, but let's go over all of them together here. So we have a first question from Mal, and helping us today, we have both Evan and George from the developer support team answer some of these questions. So Mal's asking, is a physics engine Havoc like in Babylon JS?
Hey, Pablo, I answered this in the chat. It's not Havoc based, based on Bullet 3. So you'll find some similar functionality as you would get with Havoc, but not exactly Havoc.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, and we'll just go over all these questions for the sake of the recording being complete for everyone that's watching after the fact. Does the Niantic Studio currently support VPS?
Yeah.
Oh, you're in a room. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Microphone's not gonna match up, but right now Studio supports face effects and world effects. We're working on support for VPS, so definitely stay tuned. You can subscribe to our newsletter if you want to hear about updates as they're announced.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. And then we have a question from Lee Bardo asking, what other elements do you plan to add in the future for face effects?
A good question. Yeah, we support basic face effects now in Studio. I think, there's more that we can do with morphing, more that we can do with kind of our face mesh and helpers. So I think, yeah, stay tuned. We are kind of slowly building out the additional XR capabilities and additional sample projects. But we'd love to hear your ideas. If you have ideas, if you have things that you need, let us know.
Awesome. Thank you. And then a follow-up question kind of to that is, how intuitive is Niantic Studio for someone who is just starting out in web AR?
I think it's pretty intuitive. That's the goal. Be able to build out your 3D idea in 3D. So I think, if you're coming with some familiarity with other 3D workstations like, Unity, Unreal, Maya, Blender, I think you should be able to get started with Studio. Now it's in beta, so there are some limitations today in the tool. There are some workarounds, and we're kind of building out, more functionality for building out more interactions and animations and, dynamic elements within a studio project. But I do think, yeah, for someone kind of coming in without any experience with, let's say, 3JS or A-Frame, they can get started quickly with WebAR using Studio.
Great. And then we have a question from Cephas. I'm having trouble opening my workspace. It's stuck on the onboarding screen. Could you help me with this? I think that's a better question to email support for. if you can, support@athwall.com, and I'm sure they can give you some help on that front. Yeah, just to troubleshoot that a little bit better. Awesome. And then we had a question in the chat with regards to the deadline to the challenge. That deadline is September 3rd, 29th, sorry. So technically September 30th, but right at midnight to join, not finish. You can join at any point between now and then. So you don't have to worry about when to join. You can join at any point. Don't worry about that. And then a question from I'm so sorry I cannot pronounce your name, but it's regarding to A-Frame, and you started a project on that front. This challenge is specifically for Niantic Studio, so you do not need to build in the cloud editor for this. So you can continue to use a free account on Athwall to build with Studio, as opposed to having to do the paid version. All righty. Any final questions here before we jump into our ideation session, which is fun, and we'll be playing with some sticky notes virtually. All righty, cool. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start screen sharing again, and I will be dropping a link in the chat for everyone so that you all can join here. Okay, so let me know if everyone opening that is able to join this. Okay, I see some anonymous foxes. Yep, and Rhino, great, cool. So that tells me that you all are able to join, all right. So this is our Google Jamboard for this. So we will be dropping in some ideas. I see someone's already moving stuff around. Very quickly, the way that this works is we'll grab sticky notes from this left-hand side. And in that sticky note, you can write what your idea is. So in this case, I'm just going to write my name and say hi. And we'll go ahead and close that. And then you can just move this around into any sort of area. So what we'll be doing, hi Libby. What we'll be doing is sharing our initial ideas and also going through any potential blockers that you foresee moving forward. And then lastly, from those ideas and from all that information that we're gathering, if you all see opportunities for team forming, this is a really great opportunity to drop in your name, your contact info, and what your area of expertise is to start forming up some teams. As we've seen, when you all work together, the quality of experiences submitted is amazing. So really looking forward to that side of it. All right, so let's move all over to the next frame. So you should be able to see this question, write a summary of your current idea. And I'll give you all a couple minutes to grab your sticky notes and write down those ideas as we continue to check the Q&A and the chat for any questions. All right, got our first one in. Ooh, interesting. Monster trucks. Love that. Also love the emoji being added there. While you all are typing in, I really wanted to showcase Declan's amazing game Dragon Dash, which was recently finished, and it's also available to clone. So I'll drop the link there in the chat. Thank you, Evan. All right, so have you all played Flappy Bird? If you have, this will look very familiar. And I apologize in advance for how bad I am at this game. But here is a game built entirely in Niantic Studio. Very Flappy Bird at. My high score here is 18. It's almost full there repeated. Kudos to you. But this is just a really great experience that was built in Flappy Bird. In Studio. Sorry, I read Jamaica's comment and then said Flappy Bird. But yeah, a lot of the information how this was built is here. So you can definitely go in here, clone it, and reverse engineer it. So huge shout out to Declan, who's also available in the community. So if you have any questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. Don't laugh. I've actually never played the original Flappy Bird. Oh, that's unfortunate, Jamaica. But I did hear at some point iPhones that had the Flappy Bird game still installed were being auctioned off for like thousands and thousands of dollars because the game was eventually deleted and removed from the App Store, which is really interesting. All right, so we got our first 3 ideas here. So we have let me just go back here and check if anyone put their ideas here. Nope. Okay, cool. Did anyone accidentally jump? Awesome. Nope. It looks like Libardo just went ahead of everyone and answered all the questions. All right, so we have our first idea being interactive glasses gallery that allows users to try on real models to facilitate purchases. It's really interesting. I'd love to hear more on how you make that into how that is like a game in this aspect. To whoever wrote that down, feel free to unmute or type in the chat. Monster trucks. What does monster trucks mean? Do you mean like moving monster trucks around obstacles in the same way that it works in the real world? I know there's monster truck shows and it's kind of trick based. That's really interesting. And I'd love to see that kind of mechanics of that working in the studio with all of the physics elements. Def something that pushes the physics engine. Yeah, that would be really great to see. I'd love to see how far everyone can push the physics element of Studio. I've played with it myself and gotten some really interesting results. I'm currently working on building a Apex racing game. So the goal being that you have to hit the Apex at every level. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll finally finish it. AR themed spaces based on VPS scan and AI text to 3D description. That's really interesting. Just so you know, as mentioned earlier, VPS is not currently available with Niantic Studio, but coming soon-ish is, I think, all I can say, and I probably already said too much. Game for physical and mental health to similar in style to Beat Saber. That's really great. I love that idea. I know there's a huge push for that, especially with headsets. Libardo, you're using face effects. Okay, cool. Yeah, so glasses they are. Gotcha. Cool. I'm interested to see the gaming aspects of that. The AR game to build with Lego style pieces. That's fun. Yeah, that's really great. Instead of having to have leftover Lego pieces that you accidentally step on in your home, you do it in AR. You'll less risk there. That's awesome. Studio sports like Wii Sports. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I see some similarities here. Maybe some potential opportunities to work together for these 2 games. Love that. And whoever builds this Monster Trucks game, I definitely will probably reach out to see how that goes because I'm also building a car-based game. AR 3D puzzle game, puzzling places, clone. Oh, interesting. I'm wondering if you're thinking maybe like an escape room or something along those lines. That would be really cool to see. A 2-player PvP game like Super Smash Bros. Oh, nice, like a platform game. That would be really cool. I don't know if you can get 2 players in Studio right now. Maybe like the bones of this would be building a character that interacts with a kind of like a standalone, like a punching bag, so to speak. That would be a good first step for this development, which would be really cool to see. I love Super Smash Bros, although I'm very bad at that game. So that's really cool. Awesome. All right, so let's move on to slide number 3, our next frame. And in this, you'll see the question, what potential blockers do you foresee? So Keeping in mind the fact the Studio is in beta and what's currently available in Studio, I would love to see what you all are thinking in regards to what could potentially become an issue. And this will help us potentially come up with a second or a fourth or even fifth event to help support these in the development process. So I know this is you, Leonardo, because you went through all the slides already. The use of face effects will enhance my development, and Niantic Studio will help me to have more ease in development. Okay, cool. So it seems like you're very dependent on face effects for your experience already. I would definitely start playing with that ASAP and try to find where you encounter any sort of limitations and let us know as quickly as possible. And also, if you weren't at our event last month, Josh Mao led a really good workshop diving into how to build with face effects and world effects. So you can find that on our YouTube. We'll also send out a resource guide that has those replays available. Finding assets for the game. Yeah, that is really, really good kind of concern. I know that in the past we've recommended sites like Polypizza, which has a huge library of free 3D assets that you can add into your experiences. Just make sure you look at the licenses and the overall use for it. We had a question in the chat. What does VPS mean? Roger, that's a great question. So VPS stands for our visual positioning system, which allows for location-based AR experiences, which is available with the Athwall Cloud Editor, but is not currently available in the Niantic Studio. So yeah, I see that being flagged here as addition of VPS and evolution of AI text to 3D emerging tech. Ooh, interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love to see that develop further. First time using Niantic Studio. I am gonna make this as big as possible because yes, I do foresee that becoming a recurring theme here. The Niantic Studio is, although easy to get started with, I've found the more complex your game mechanics may be, the more you have to learn. So definitely something to keep in mind as you all are starting off. Let's see. As you all are filling this out, we have a question. Are you able to have two different players share an experience async in Studio? Like if you can't have two players going head to head at the same time, can one do something in a space and then the other who is in the same space can see it? And then, okay, so like kind of react to it. Yeah, there's some really good game ideas there. I think George answered, you can do that by storing the actions in Google Firebase. Or yep, cool. Awesome. Thank you, George. Yeah, if you have any additional resources or a link for building that, that'd be super helpful to drop in the chat. Mel also suggested kenny.nl for some great 3D assets. So I definitely recommend saving that. And Tara's had a question in the Q&A. Maybe Evan or George, you can help me answer this by unmuting. Are joint physics available, as in attach something on a face effect and anchor, perhaps?
As far as I know, we don't have physics constraints yet, but I know that that's definitely on the roadmap.
Awesome. Thank you, George. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So it seems like in general, we're getting good comments here, getting started with Niantic Studio and having other composable projects to be added on. Yeah.